So let's come back over to our first window and bring our dancer's head back onto screen. I like that it's at exactly 100% because we're not going to see any interpolated pixels. There's enough information on screen to tell if the results are going to be good. So it is good to work at an even multiple like 100% or 200% to really evaluate the final results of a delicate operation like this. Because sometimes screen interpolation at a weird value like 133 or whatever is going to give you slightly blurry results. And back in our other view, the new view that we just created, I'm going to once again hold down the Option key and click on our mask layer. And you'll see that we can simultaneously view the mask layer in this image while we're viewing the results in this window. Remember, same image, absolutely same image, just different views. So over here, Command 1, that's Control 1 on Windows. We'll bring in our mask. And we can pretty much ignore everything out here because the only part of the mask that matters is the part that affects this garbage mat that we created. That's why we created it. We only want to worry about masking out this viewable area. So the stuff out here in the mask we can completely ignore. And the first thing that I'm going to do is correct the most glaring problem with this mask, and that is it's turned inside out. Basically with the mask, white pixels are 100% opaque, and black pixels are 100% transparent. So the first easiest thing to do is just hit Command-I or Control-I on Windows to invert the mask. Boom. We've now inverted it, and already things are starting to look a little bit better over here. Now we need to fill in some areas of what we see on screen here. The brute force stuff we can do with just the brush tool. If we come over and choose our paintbrush, give ourselves a decent size with the right bracket tool. A little bit of fuzziness is just fine. On my screen, I can't see the colors at the bottom of my toolbox, so I'm going to come over here and click the toolbar to stack them next to each other instead of on top of each other, and that gives us a nice view of our color chips. I want to use our default black and white, which is pretty much the most useful values you can have when you're doing mask work. So I'm going to hit the D key, and because we want to paint in white, and white's our foreground color, we're in good shape, so let's come over and very, very quickly paint in her face. Try not to let any of the lighter colors sort of spill out over the edge. But as we paint in her face and let go, you can see, presto, nice opaque return of all of our original pixels over there. And we're going to paint into here. We know we want all of this to be opaque. Shoulders opaque. Try not to get down into the hair, though. We don't want that opaque yet. Or at all. So we're painting. That's good. Now, just to darken the bricks down to pure black, to get rid of some of this white fringe, I'm going to use levels real quick. This can be pretty destructive. We don't need to worry about things like adjustment layers for this, so just Command-L, Control-L on Windows. And let's bring our levels palette down out of the way so that we can clearly see our mask and the results and also see our input levels, because that's all we're going to be messing around with here. And what we want to do is we want to make the bricks in the background layer of our mask as black as we can without losing too much detail in the hair. And we're going to do that by dragging to the right. And you can see the results. This is why this darker background is useful for us, because it allows us to see the white fringe that's left over up here. And I want to crank this and crank it until that white fringe pretty much disappears. So that's not bad. It looks like we're just about under this second peak of the second bump in our input levels. Gives us a pretty good result. Again, we don't have to get rid of all of the white. We'll be taking care of that later. We just want to have a nice transparent line here. And then I'll come back to my gamma and bring back in some of the intermediate details so that all of her hair doesn't completely disappear down here. We don't want all the fine wisps to vanish. We want to preserve as many as we can. So that looks pretty good. We don't really need to do much over here on the right, but let's see if we pull that over a bit. That should fatten up any stray, not quite 100% white pixels in our paint job. And I'm going to call that OK for now. Click OK. And now we're going to need to get a little bit artistic. I'm going to zoom in further so that we can see the problem areas where the background interferes with the hair. And this is going to cause trouble up here as well. And I'm going to, once again, use my brush tool. And in this case, I'm going to reduce the size of it. This is kind of delicate work. And I'm going to hit the X key to go from white to black. Very, very useful keyboard shortcut, once again, when masking, the X key to toggle between your foreground and your background colors. And we're going to click, let's make it even a little bit smaller than that. And we'll just get rid of these lines. Anything that intrudes on the hair, I'm going to paint out. Anything at all. You can find situations where this can be a very, very tedious thing, but in this case, this won't be too bad. Move down, you can see them really, really clearly, and because we did a garbage matte, we only have to go a little ways away from the hair, so this doesn't turn into this marathon of painting. We just want to get rid of anything that obviously looks like leftover blockiness. There's a little bit up in here as well that will show up, so we want to get rid of that. And you can see in here, a little crossbar, we want to get rid of that. Little click there. And now we're going to need to actually manufacture a mask here at the bottom, because you can see over here we've got that little bit of tutu which we want to get rid of. So let's just paint this out. But some of the hairs actually intersect the tutu, so we're going to basically be giving them a hard edge, which is fine. It won't look bad. And this is where you got to get a little artistic. Thin up some of these hairs as if they're really ending. Give them sharp points. And we've got a little schnivel left down here. We paint that out, and you can see in the results in our main screen that now it's gone. A little bit there too. That's pretty good. And I think we're in pretty good shape. I think this is actually quite good. Now you're still looking at that white fringe going, but that's kind of ugly, isn't it? Well, let's see how to fix that. I'm going to go back to 100% here. Yep, I'm very happy with this. A quick glance, and I don't see any more problems. In fact, I am going to add a little bit more before we leave here. I'm going to color in a little bit more of this so that we don't have transparency there. Not that it really matters for our illustration, but this is useful to know for your work down the road, of course. Okay, let's call that done. We can now close this window. We'll expand this one back out again. And now what I'm going to do goes against a lot of the rules of non-destructive editing for which you use masks in the first place. But in this case, you got to do this in order for this to work. I'm going to right-click on our mask, and I'm going to say Apply Layer Mask, which means basically we're committing this to this layer. But there's a good reason for it. Once I've applied this mask, and now the layer is basically fixed, we can come up to the Layer menu, scroll all the way down to the bottom, and you'll find this category called Matting. Matting allows you to remove color fringes from various mattes. It's especially good in automatic working with black and with white. In our case, we're going to choose to remove the white matte. And when we do, look what happens. Oh my gosh, is that beautiful hair or what? That is just gorgeous keyed hair. Prettier than anything that you could manage with any other approach in Photoshop. It's just flawless. So that's it. That is perfect keyed hair. We can now come back over to our layers panel. Option click on it once again to bring back all of our layers. If you see a little line or any other artifacts when you merge these layers, don't worry about it at all. The work we'll be doing in a few moments is going to completely obscure that. Get rid of the background. Go back to full screen with this. And now with the head layer selected, I'm going to hit Command-E on the Mac or Control-E on Windows, making sure that it's above the body layer. And when I do, it's going to merge the head layer down with the body. So now the body layer is its own layer connected to the head, and we can move on to the artistic portion of this chapter.